The FBI concluded, because they are so wise, that they were the rantings of a madman. No, he's just very creative. He was not a madman.
Yeah.
What are you going to call the FBI? You going to report me? You going to write a strongly worded memo? That's just not the way. That's not the way a civilized society should work.
Was Jose Rodriguez the least favorite guy you ever worked for?
Yeah. He was just uniformly unpleasant. He had no sense of humor. Even his peers, the deputy directors, didn't like him. He's not a guy you would want to go out and have a beer with.
How did he get to? I mean, he got high up, obviously. How did he get to that point?
A couple of different ways. He was actually quite good in operating in very difficult environments, almost exclusively in Latin America. And his best friend in the world was Kofor Black.
Oh, they were really tight.
Mm-hmm.
And you like Kofor?
I loved Kofor. I thought he was just great.
Did you ever talk to Kofor about Jose?
Great leader. Absolutely not. Not my place.
That's interesting, though.
Not
so
my
they were
place.
really tight.
Kofor kind of was disrespected at the end. In a disaster like 9/11, somebody's got to be the fall guy. And they decided, it's going to be Kofor.
Why?
Who else is it going to be? George Tenet had ingratiated himself with the president, so it wasn't going to be George. George was protecting all of his deputy directors. He had handpicked all of them. Jose was too low on the totem pole to take the heat for it. Had to be Kofor.
What about Alex Station? What was the guy? Bill? What the hell was
Mike
his
Schroyer.
name? Mike Schroyer, yeah.
2 Junior. And Alex Station was saying from the very beginning, they're going to attack us. They're going to attack us. Yeah. Why is nobody paying attention? They're going to attack us. I said in my first book, July the 6th, 2001.
That's right.
Right? July the 6th, 2001.
They're coming.
Yeah. I am entertaining a group of Middle Eastern intelligence officers. We all did this, right? You have this delegation come literally every single day. I had this delegation come from a friendly Middle Eastern country, all mid-level guys. They're all majors and colonels. And what you do is you give them a day of briefings. You take them to lunch in the director's dining room.
Hit them with a tracking nano chip.
Right. You implant the nano chip in their brains. And then you have a photo op with the director. And then you exchange gifts. And then you take them to a fancy steakhouse and spend $1,000 on dinner. And then they go back saying what a great time they had at the CIA and it's great for relations. So that day I was entertaining this group from the Middle East and I had scheduled a full day of 30-minute briefings on all these different global issues. One of them was Al-Qaeda. And so I asked a junior analyst to come in, just give us a 30-minute thing on Al-Qaeda. Instead, in walk Kofor and the director of operations for Alex Station. I stood up and I said, gentlemen, this is Kofor Black. He's the director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. And this woman is the director of operations. I was shocked. Kofor sits down and he says, straight out, something terrible is going to happen. We don't know exactly when or what, but it's going to be an attack that's unprecedented.
Yes. He had just said this to Condoleezza.
He had just said it.
Yep.
And he said, I beg you, if you have any sources inside Al-Qaeda, please help us. And silence.
Whoa.
Silence. They didn't have any sources in Al-Qaeda.
They didn't?
No. Nobody did. They were just as shocked by the directness of this briefing as I was. So at the end of the day, I send these guys back to their hotel. We're going to go out to dinner at like 7. So I go to Kofor's office to thank him for taking the time. And I said, Kofor, I got to ask you, I'm not working on Al-Qaeda. Was that just for their benefit to sort of shake them up? Or were you serious? He said, "Oh, I was serious. Something terrible is going to happen." And then as soon as I saw that second plane hit, I was
You
like,
knew.
"Oh man, this is exactly what he was talking
Yeah,
about."
this is one of those things. You know how the internet is
Mm-hmm.
with 9/11 and stuff, and it's one of the topics that I always get body bagged on.
Oh, me too.
When I try to talk about
I
this,
take it on the chin and I give it right back.
So there's no doubt to me that evidence suggests that other intelligence agencies around the world, and I'll leave it at that, had some prior knowledge of what was going to go down here.
Well, there were two we can go ahead and name.
Go for it.
Yeah, the Israelis and the Saudis, up to their necks.
Oh yeah.
And both wanted it to happen for different reasons.
I love your directness. You took the words right out of my brain and put it on the mic there.
Well,
so
let me add something,
please,
if I may interrupt you.
Please go ahead.
You know, when we caught Abu Zubaydah in March of 2002,
Which we'll tell the story of.
we also confiscated his diary. And I use the word diary loosely.
He's like writing letters to himself and shit, right?
So it was an address book, it was a diary, it was a doodle book, but he was writing these letters to himself as a young man. So it's the 27-year-old Abu Zubaydah writing to the 14-year-old Abu Zubaydah saying, "Don't make the mistakes that I made. Treat our father with respect. You know, be kind to that girl next door that you were rude to," that kind of thing. The FBI concluded, because they are so wise, that they were the rantings of a madman. No, he's just very creative. He was not a madman.
Yeah.
But the important part of this is in the address book part, there were the names and cell phone numbers of 3 Saudi princes.
Mm-hmm.
So to make a long story short, we went to the Saudis and we said, "We're going to start killing people. And some of them may be named Al Saud if you don't get on the stick." Well, within a week, all 3 of them were dead. One died of 43 of a heart attack.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One was killed in a single car accident on the Riyadh-Jeddah highway.
Right, his brakes didn't work anymore.
And one died of thirst while camping in the desert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I bring this up because it's very well documented that the CIA and FBI did not share information because there
Correct.
was strong. I mean, you've hinted at that all day.
We
obviously.
hated each
You
other.
guys hate each other. So John O'Neill, who was a very brash, flawed guy at FBI, Counterterrorism New York. If
Deputy Director of the FBI and Special Agent in charge of the New York field office.
Right. So if you've ever seen the series The Looming Tower or read the book by Lawrence, what the hell is it?
Lawrence.
Oh my God, that's horrible. I can't remember his last
It's a
name.
great book.
Lawrence Wright. That's it.
Yeah, Lawrence Wright.
Excellent.
Classic book.
Excellent book. So John, all his flaws aside, was spot on about Osama bin Laden.
Yes, he was.
Pounding the table about it forever.
100% correct.
Bill Shore is that his name?
Mike Scheuer.
Mike Scheuer at CIA.
100% correct as well.
Fucking hated him.
Yep.
And so there was a lack of sharing there, including guys who the intel that CIA had about guys who were in America,
Correct.
going to flight schools and whatever. So it's a very bad look for CIA.
And it's deeper than that even.
Please.
The CIA and FBI computer systems were incompatible.
What?
Yeah. So if I'm in the CIA and I write a cable and it's a finished intelligence report, it goes to the CIA, the State Department, the Pentagon, the White House. It can't go to the FBI because the FBI computer system is not set up to accept CIA cables.
Oh my God.
And when the FBI writes a cable, it can't be sent to the CIA. That's how much we hated each other.
Holy shit.
Now, that's changed,
Right.
but this is what we were dealing with on 9/11.
Right. So point being that there's a total communication breakdown there, and that you would definitely file that under the subject matter of like incompetence when you're looking at doing an autopsy of what happened.
Definitely official incompetence.
Okay. When people run just because I think it makes them feel good to say online, the CIA did 9/11, I have to look at evidence here. And I say this as someone who thinks the CIA has done a lot of awful shit over the years, and we've seen it publicized for sure, and we'll always call that out.
Absolutely.
We've talked about JFK on here. We've talked about MK Ultra.
Yep.
But on this one, when you see guys like Cofer Black and George Tenet, there was a meeting on July 6th, like you talked about, and there was another one in August at the White House. I want to say George was at the one in August, but Cofer Black, I believe, was at both of them. The fucking leaders of the CIA went to the White House. It's on record.
Yes.
And said this is going to happen. They didn't necessarily say it's 2 planes going into the World Trade Center.
No, because we didn't know the detail.
But they knew it was fucking coming. And the issue when you look at it is that it took the fucking Clinton White House like 6.5 years to start taking Al-Qaeda seriously.
Yes.
And here you had a White House that was certainly a very flawed White House, only 8 months in, and they're like, we'll worry about that later.
Condi Rice was one of the worst offenders. She's like, you guys, you're obsessed with this Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. So when you see the 20, almost 25 year aftermath now, 23 years, whatever it is, where over time, this is, as you get farther and farther away from an event, you get people who were maybe young that are now coming of age who didn't see it happen, right? Now they look at the evidence. You see a lot of information float online from all different sources, ranging from total morons to, people who may have had some security clearances or whatever. And you get this batch of different opinions about what the inside job was. And certainly, as we discussed, there was certainly some inside information here that was not shared, and it's a very corrupt day. But when you see, as someone who has every reason to also not like the CIA and maybe some of the power structures that exist there, when you see so much of the American public pin it specifically just on the CIA, how does that make you feel?
It makes me lament the fact that there is so much intellectual laziness in our country today. Yeah. Listen, the CIA, to echo your comment just now, the CIA has done some awful shit over the course of its history from 1947 onward. Murdering 3,000 Americans in one day is not one of those things. No, we can blame, listen, Al-Qaeda did this. We can also blame the Saudi government. I believe the Saudi government, or elements of the Saudi government, elements of the Saudi royal family were involved in this up to their necks. The Israelis probably had advanced warning that this was going to happen and decided not to tell the United States because they wanted us to go to war with the Middle East, right? It makes them stronger.
That's right.
So they had a vested interest in the U.S. being attacked that day. But there was no nanothermite in the paint. There was no controlled demolition. It wasn't the space aliens or the lizard people, which I've actually been told multiple times. Yeah.
It gets out of hand, man.
It was Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. But you're there those next 4 days, because I believe the paramilitary operation started maybe 5-6 days later.
Yes.
Something like that. So you're a part of the planning for that, right?
No, that was happening very, very secretly. And it was an absolutely heroic group of guys, all of whom were known to us. They just kind of disappeared one day, a couple of days after 9/11. And they were airdropped into northern Afghanistan.
We talking ground branch guys?
No, it was a bunch of middle-aged guys who knew how to ride horses and shoot guns.
And they weren't all CIA.
No, they weren't all CIA.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.